A young girl lived in quiet poverty, with a heart too gentle to demand her fair share. Endless hunger soon brought her and her weary mother to the absolute edge of starvation. Would a strange gift from the deep woods save their lives or swallow their village whole? Step into the forest shadows and see what magic bubbles beneath the surface. Winter winds howled through the cracked timber of a tiny cottage at the edge of town, biting at those who shivered inside. Frost clung stubbornly to the thin glass of their only window. Inside the dark and silent room, a completely bare cupboard stood as a cruel witness to their daily misery. The exhausted mother sat by a cold hearth. She wept bitter, heavy tears into the fraying fabric of her dirty apron, knowing they had eaten their last crumb of stale bread 3 agonizing days ago. No wealthy neighbors could spare even a handful of flour or a single wilted cabbage leaf. Seeing her dear mother sink entirely into despair, the brave child finally decided to seek out help. She wrapped a thin woolen shawl tightly around her trembling shoulders. Her bare feet stepped bravely out into the freezing mud of the dense, overgrown forest path. Pine trees loomed high overhead like dark, silent giants, guarding ancient and dangerous secrets from the eyes of men. Shadows lengthened quickly across the damp earth. The pale afternoon sun began to fade entirely behind a thick bank of gray storm clouds, leaving the woods in a chilling gloom. The girl walked deeper into the unfamiliar territory until her toes grew numb with brutal cold. Suddenly, the thick, thorny brush parted to reveal a strange figure standing perfectly still among the trees. An old woman with kind, deeply crinkled eyes emerged from the gloomy, swirling mist. She wore a cloak woven from silver threads and carried no wooden walking stick. The mysterious stranger seemed to already know the child completely, understanding the heavy sorrow currently burdening her pure and innocent young heart. Without asking a single probing question, the elder gently offered a small, immensely heavy iron pot. Its dark surface was rough. It looked entirely unremarkable to the naked human eye. The woman told the shivering child to wipe away her tears and listen very closely to her instructions. Setting the vessel on a roaring fire required only a simple spoken command to immediately awaken its hidden power. Little pot boil. Those 3 magic words would instantly summon sweet, steaming millet porridge, saturated with heavy cream and golden honey. To completely cease the wonderful feast, one only had to speak another gentle, firm command. Little pot stop. Hearing this unbelievable promise, the child bowed her head deeply and offered 1,000 quiet thanks before turning toward home. She hurried back down the winding trail. The heavy iron treasure remained clutched securely against her racing, hopeful chest as she ran through the fading light. Bursting fiercely through the cottage door, she proudly placed the gift upon the dusty stone hearth. The weary mother watched with total confusion as her daughter spoke directly to the empty, soot-stained vessel. Little pot boil. Instantly, a beautifully warm and fragrant steam rose high into the freezing air of the cramped room. Thick, golden porridge bubbled up forcefully from the bare iron bottom, exactly as if fed by an invisible, boiling underground spring. The rich aroma of toasted millet and warm sugar rapidly filled every miserable corner of their previously barren home. They rushed to fetch carved wooden spoons. Both women ate furiously until their empty bellies felt delightfully tight and beautifully warm from the inside out. The child calmly looked down and spoke the second necessary phrase. Little pot stop. The rapid bubbling ceased at once, leaving them full and perfectly content for the very first time in their difficult lives. Many peaceful weeks passed in a state of continuous, magical joy. Poverty finally lost its cruel, suffocating grip on the small and humble household. Neither woman ever went to narrow bed with a painfully hollow, aching stomach anymore. One brisk Tuesday morning, the young girl walked down into the village square. She needed to carefully gather fresh drinking water from the deep communal well. Left entirely alone in the quiet house, the older woman began to feel a familiar, gnawing afternoon hunger. She confidently walked over to the stone hearth to try her own luck with the artifact. Speaking the exact magic words felt completely natural after watching her daughter do it every single day. Little pot boil. Obediently, the black iron vessel began to gently simmer and produce its delightful, sugary treasure without a single moment of delay. The lonely mother ate bowl after giant bowl of the rich, steaming food. She simply could not force down another bite without bursting her own worn seams. Satisfied at last, she wiped her sticky chin and prepared to finally silence the magical object. A terrible, icy realization suddenly gripped her tight throat. She had never actually learned the specific words required to make the endless cooking cease. The warm tide of porridge is about to furiously spill over the cottage threshold. Before we discover the messy fate of this village, subscribe and let us know your favorite magical legend. Absolute panic set in quickly as the golden food crested the high rim of the dark pot. Thick, boiling porridge spilled dangerously onto the hearthstones in a slow, expanding, and steaming wave. The terrified mother cried out desperately for the magical vessel to halt its endless, frightening production.
No! Stop it!
She begged the cursed iron to finally rest, demanding the bubbling object to be completely still did absolutely nothing to slow the rising tide. None of those frantic, breathless pleas matched the true and secret magic phrase needed to close the spell. The enchanted pot continued to boil with a relentless, terrifying enthusiasm that knew absolutely no bounds. Sweet millet violently flooded the wooden kitchen floor, rising swiftly past the carved chair legs and the cold stone baking oven. The sticky mess poured completely out of the open front door like a sluggish, fragrant river of impending sugary doom. The neighboring cottage was violently swallowed next in a rising, unstoppable tide of scalding milk and honey. Glass windows shattered completely under the immense, crushing pressure of the boiling yellow mass pushing against the fragile frames. Soon, the entire narrow dirt street became a rapidly churning canal of dangerously hot porridge. Terrified villagers ran screaming wildly toward the safety of the distant green hills. They abandoned their wooden merchant carts, startled farm animals were left stuck deep in the delicious but deadly mud. The enchanted food stubbornly continued to multiply without pause, forcefully claiming a third house, then a fourth, and then a fifth unsuspecting home. The runaway magic seemed utterly determined to drown the entire known world in a thick wave of suffocating, burning sweetness. No frantic human hands could scoop or shovel fast enough to properly fight the surging culinary mountain pouring through the valley. It washed away wooden fences and filled up deep root cellars until the saturated ground itself groaned aloud under the immense weight. Finally, only a single tiny dwelling on the extreme far edge of town remained uncovered by the rolling flood. Help arrived just as all hope was entirely lost among the weeping refugees. The young girl returned slowly from the distant well and saw the colossal disaster coating her beloved village. She stood fearlessly at the messy edge of the steaming yellow sea. Raising her clear voice high above the sticky chaos, she shouted the final, desperately needed command.
Stop the porridge!
Little pot stop. The violent bubbling instantly died away, leaving a strange, heavy silence over the ruined dirt streets of the formerly bustling town. Anyone wishing to return to their warm bed that evening faced a massive, incredibly sticky challenge. They had to literally eat their way back through the thick, cooling walls of sweet food, blocking every single pathway. Magic given freely still requires the quiet wisdom to carefully control its hidden power. A sweet blessing can quickly become a bitter burden when left in careless, unprepared hands.